But you still don't know the Bible, though.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, do I not know the Bible because I'm of the hermeneutics or because of the Holy Spirit? I need to know where you stand on this, Becco.
Both, depending on the context of what we're talking about.
To be fair, you are a fucking reprobate.
I am a fucking reprobate.
No, you don't. Well, Slim Jim doesn't know that. Neither do we.
The Lord don't know your heart.
That's what I'm saying.
The Lord doesn't exist. It's made up.
How do you know that?
No, I'm taking the side of the Lord. I'm just saying you have to suffer more patience. Go ahead.
I can't possibly be butthurt because you haven't brought anything to the table that's substantial. No, don't do that. You see how atheists
so how do I know that your Christian God doesn't exist? I know that the flood didn't happen. I know that two people didn't populate this whole world.
Watch the hands.
I also
you see what he's doing?
Watch the hands.
You see.
All right, what's up, you godless bastards? Welcome back to the Rage. Another special Thanksgiving little episode. We're gonna have a one-on-one. Phillip is here. He is a Christian, and he wants to have a conversation about is God necessary using logic? Not my strong suit, as you guys probably know, and I'm kind of going to be going into this cold. We were going to do this, like he asked me about possibly doing a modern day debate, but James is hard to get a hold of now. I try to get a hold of James for a debate with CJ. Now with Phillip here, and James, he's got big things going on. A lot harder to get on the modern day debate. I am thinking about starting to do debates on this channel, and in fact, I'll be announcing probably tomorrow. Somebody is looking for a debate, and I'm going to see if anybody wants to come on and debate this person. I told them not my strong suit, but this is something that I'm kind of dipping my toes in, and so Phillip is here. I'm going to let Phillip kind of introduce himself. And then he'll present me with his arguments, and we'll kind of go from there, and see how the conversation is gonna go. So nice to have you on the show, Phillip. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, hello to all the listeners. My name is Phillip. My YouTube channel is Phillip Christian YouTube. I'm here to debate the rage on God using logic. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, should be interesting.
I'll start off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. Okay, so I'll just say two sentences, and then I'll let you know when I'm finished. So I take the position God exists. My opener, the universe is finite because infinite matter cannot move without an outside prime mover. Therefore, beyond the curvature of the finite universe is an eternal and infinite in size property. My second sentence. Universal consistency, countless stars, and biogenesis proves that property has a consciousness and is not random. Therefore, God exists. What is your response?
All right. Wow. That was a lot there. Are you very familiar with me?
I've seen a debate with you in Standing for Truth. And I've seen one that was uploaded quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I've seen one with you and Matt Powell.
All right. So okay. I'm gonna have you repeat it again. I repeat your opening again, and we'll go from there. This is way out of my my alley, but go for it again. This is gonna be kind of funny, I think.
Okay. I'll start again. So the universe is finite because infinite matter cannot move without an outside prime mover. Therefore, beyond the curvature of the finite universe is an eternal and infinite in size property. My second sentence. Universal consistency, countless stars, and biogenesis proves that property has a consciousness and is not random. Therefore, God exists.
Okay. So, your first premise seems to be a bunch of words. Infinite matter can't move without an outside prime mover. I'm not really big into philosophy, so yeah. I mean, I don't know, maybe seen the Standing for Truth conversation. And I didn't understand who Standing for Truth was. You've seen the Matt Powell conversation. That was an evolution. I'm not sure which conversation. If you're referring to the debate, he came with an evolution debate, and I came with something else. I was doing something else. We were supposed to be doing something else. Infinite matter cannot move with outside prime mover. I'm not really too worried about your first sentence. But your second sentence seems to rely around the fact that the universe is the universe, that there's stars within it. And your claim is that biogenesis and the fact that the universe is the universe, that there's some kind of a pattern to the way the universe is, proves that there's some kind of consciousness to the universe. I don't see how that proves that there's a consciousness to the universe. I don't see how that proves that at all.
Well, the universe is finite, expanding into this eternal and infinite property.
Yeah, we now know that the universe is still expanding. We didn't know that until Hubble, I believe it was 1913, somewhere around there. I could have the date wrong. Until that point, we thought that the universe was actually shrinking, and we found out that the universe is indeed still expanding. So I agree with you on that. But how does that prove that there is a consciousness?
Well, because of universal consistency, it's because there are over trillions of stars. These three-dimensional objects or four-dimensional objects, well, I'll just say three-dimensional / four-dimensional, and because of the material used, which is also consistent, and this comports with biogenesis as well, is that life exists. So if you extrapolate that back to the eternal prime mover, that prime mover has a consciousness, therefore God.
All right, so, and I'm seeing Leo Filius seems to be somewhat familiar with you. He says the universe isn't expanding into anything. I explained this to him like 4 times in our quote-unquote debate. So your argument essentially is the universe is the way that it is, therefore there must be a God, because there must be a prime mover. Now, you are putting God into the place of that prime mover. But what puts God there? How are you getting there? How are you getting to the fact that it was God that created the universe, and not the Big Bang Theory, say, or something along those lines? Maybe you're not coming at me like Otangelo was and trying to say that there either was God or no God, being the Big Bang. God could have been inside the Big Bang. I don't know where you stand. I'm not even sure which God we're talking about yet. We'll get there. But I'm trying to understand why you think that these two sentences somehow prove a consciousness in the universe when nobody's been able to prove a consciousness within the universe.
But you made the claim of the Big Bang. You have to go to a point of least expansion. So that would be the infinite matter that needs an outside prime mover, not contingent on matter, therefore God.
See, I'm not a scientist. Why do you think that there must be some prime mover?
Because that infinite structure of matter needs a prime mover to make finite particulars inside of itself. For example, stars and planets.
Huh? What? How are you getting there? So why does a star and why does planets? Why does that need a God to make it work? It works on its own. We can actually look at these things. We see no God. They're working on its own. You're putting this prime mover there, and you're saying that these two sentences prove the fact that prime mover's there when it doesn't. I'm trying to. This is supposed to be a conversation about logic, where we're not really talking too much about logic. You made 2 statements. You say that proves that there's this prime mover. in the universe. Yes, we know that planets rotate around stars, that there seems to be a pattern to that, but that does not prove that there's this prime mover, that there's this God. I want to know how you're getting to that premise.
I'll make it simple. So I'll ask you a question. In your worldview, the material for the universe, did that have a beginning or is it eternal?
Does the universe have a beginning or is it eternal? That's your question.
The material, so the matter.
I don't think science answers that, and I've never once pretended to know that. I don't know. I wasn't there. That's always been my answer to a question.
There's only two. The law of excluded middle. There's only two options.
We always get here with these kind of interlocutors. Yes, I've dealt with that. Sure. Yeah, you want to say it's either God or not God. Dealt with that with Otangelo. Dealt with that with Darth Dawkins. Sure. I could say it's either Universal Pixies or it's not Universal Pixies. You're the one that's putting God there as that prime mover.
No, the law of excluded middle in relation to the beginning or the material not having a beginning. So if the material did not have a beginning, therefore it's eternal.
Well, what I'm saying is science hasn't answered that question, so I'm not going to pretend to. You would pretend to answer that question. I'm not going to pretend to answer that question. As far as I know, we can't see beyond the expansion. We can't see the beginning, so we don't know the beginning. We don't know if it has a beginning. We don't know. So I can't possibly know. And my position has always been that I can only possibly know what I've experienced in this life. I can take guesses about evolution, about all that shit. None of that's really mattered to me. I've said it several times. If you've seen my Matt Powell conversations, then you understand that this has always been my consistent answer when it comes to this. I don't know. I don't pretend to know. These questions aren't really... this isn't logic that's going to lead me to God. You saying that there's stars and there's planets and there must be a God behind all of that. That's like, to me, Oprah Winfrey saying, well, look at the trees. Don't you feel the awe? It's the same thing. It's just worded differently.
But we're not debating creation or evolution. We're just debating God in general. But if you make the claim that the material for the universe is eternal,
I've never made a claim that there's no possibility of a God in general. So that's why I was asking if you're very familiar with me, and it appears that you're not. I've never made the claim that there's not a God in general. I don't think that there's not. I don't think that a God did any of the things that you're talking about. I don't think that a God created the universe, but I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend to make that claim. I will sit here and make the claim that the Christian God didn't do any of these things. Do you want to talk?
Yeah,
I know you believe that it's the Christian God.
But we're in your worldview now. So if you make the claim...
You're trying to get into my worldview, but you can't make a critique of my worldview if you don't understand my worldview.
I fully understand, because the material either had a beginning or it did not have a beginning. There's no third option.
I agree. So it either did or it didn't, but I don't know if it did or it didn't. So I'm not going to answer that.
Even if you say, I don't know, I could just play both sides of the table now. So if you say that the material is eternal...
No, saying I don't know is the honest answer here. You don't know. You don't know if there was a beginning or an end. You claim to know. All you need to know is if the particular was finite or infinite. They're the only two things you need to know. Maybe. Sure.
So if you make the claim that the material is eternal... You then have an infinite structure of matter that's stuck at zero, that can't do anything without an outside prime mover, not contingent on matter. Therefore, God. So, and then your safety net is absolute nothingness. So if absolute nothingness is impossible as a starting point, because if absolute nothingness created an infinite structure of matter, you still need an outside prime mover, therefore God.
Again, I don't think that science claims that there's this state of nothingness. We can't see beyond the expansion. We don't know what happens before that.
Well, then that goes back to the material being eternal.
Sure,
without
maybe.
an outside prime
Again,
mover.
so you're trying to make an internal critique about my worldview, but you don't seem to understand my worldview. Even though in what you have cited of seeing of me, you should, because I've always been very clear about it. I was very clear about it in my Matt Powell conversations because he tried to take me here as well. My answer has always been, if I don't know something, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to tell you I don't know. And I wasn't there at the beginning. I can only go based upon what science says in relation compared to what various religions say. Now, I know you're trying to be very general about your God theory. I don't know if a God was there to create this universe. I don't know. But one thing that I'm fairly certain of in this life, in the life that I have lived, and the information that I have gathered throughout the life that I have lived, is that it wasn't the Christian God that did that. If there's some universal to the mind that organized everything, that pushed everything out, sure, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, but we're talking theism.
Well, I know you want to talk theism.
Christianity later.
Christians always want to go to general theism, which is fine. That's fine. You can do that because it's easier to explain the concepts. It's a lot harder to defend the fact that your God did all of this when we know that the Word says, that things were a bit different. But I understand what you're trying to do. And maybe, because we didn't really communicate coming into this. You presented something to me, and I'm like, all right, it's not really my cup of tea, but I'll talk to you about it. Now, I think that you thought that I was going to be an easy target, but I'm just going to give you stubbornly the same thing that I've said over and over again to people like you that ask me this question. I wasn't there. I don't know. And to me, this is supposed to be a conversation about logic and God. Is it logical to believe in God? Is God necessary using logic? You're not leading me to any logical conclusions that God is necessary from any of this. This isn't going to sell me on the fact that is God necessary? Maybe, maybe not. We know that we're here. We know that all of these things work so that we're here. We know the universe is the way that it is. It has stars, it has things in it. And we're starting to learn more about that. The more we learn, honestly, the harder it gets to keep coming up with this whole God bullshit.
So all you have to do, there's 2 ways of doing this. Just take a rock. To get more objects inside that rock, you need an outside non-physical prime mover. And the second example is if you close your eyes, just visualize the color red, an omnipresent color red, you need an outside non-physical prime mover to get objects inside of that color red. Therefore, God.
Therefore, God.
Yes.
I'm sold. You convinced me. Show over. I'm convinced, guys. I'm a Christian now. He did it. That was the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. And you're right. You're literally listening to nothing that I'm saying. Nothing, which is fine. I'm kind of used to that with Christians. I understand that you thought this was going to kind of like blow me away, and it does. I don't understand half the words you're saying. You know that about me too if you'd studied me a little bit more.
You're saying I don't know, but you're only left with 2 options.
Yes.
And I've already.
It's either option A or option B.
Options.
It's either God or not God. I'm right back here again. It's the same thing. Otangelo just went through this with me. I'm going to say it's either insert anything else to be that prime mover.
In the worldview of a non-theist,
again,
the only 2 options.
You're trying to imply what my worldview is when you obviously have. So you're a Christian looking at a non-theist. You're trying to put us into this really broad group that we must think this. When if you had seen those conversations with Matt Powell, you'd understand. I don't think that. I don't claim to know. I'm not one of those types of atheists. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'll talk to you about what I've witnessed within my life, and I'll talk to you about the Bible and how stupid I think it is. Because that's what led me away from theism, away from Christianity, was the Bible, not all of this universe shit. I think the fact that the universe is so big goes against the whole God idea. I mean, it makes it illogical for me that there could be some mastermind behind this unfathomably big universe that surrounds us. So I'm not seeing how you're using logic. I mean, you said something about biogenesis, and like why? So I don't understand what you're trying to do. So you're not convincing me of anything here.
I could give you the evidence for Christianity. So fire consists of the full color spectrum. So if you read Genesis 1:3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So that's where you get the energy. And then from Matthew, this is where you get the fire from. Matthew 25, verse 41, then he will say to those on his left, "Depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels." So to extrapolate that back, light originates from the eternal fire, which consists of the full color spectrum. And this comports with the Old and New Testaments.
Life consists of the fire, the eternal fire. So
light.
The
colors.
The colors consist of fire. The eternal fire, right? So we're talking what, hellfire?
No, God's true form, eternal fire.
Oh, God's true form is eternal fire. So how do you get there? God's true form is eternal fire. Like, like you mentioned Genesis, when I read Genesis, I see God literally as a real being, not eternal fire. Like he's walking through the Garden of Eden right now. I just finished a video today on chapter 13, where God is like following Abraham around, having conversations with him. It's like, like they're homeboys.
But the three primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. And when you combine those three primary colors, you get the full color spectrum. And fire is also red, yellow, and blue. 600 degrees for the color red, 1200 degrees for the color yellow, 1400 degrees for the color blue.
I agree with that. How do you get God out of that?
Now that's where the color spectrum originates from.
Sure. So the color spectrum originates from God. How do you know that?
Because we're surrounded by energy. That's the energy.
All right. So we're surrounded by energy, but how do you know that energy comes from God? So how does the energy that we're surrounded by prove God?
Are you talking God in general, or the God of the Bible?
Any God. I mean, but we can talk the God of the Bible specifically, but any God, like, how does the energy around us prove anything outside of the fact that there's energy around us? And what energy around us are you talking about? Be more specific.
Well, if we go back to our first discussion, is that you need an eternal and infinite in size prime mover, not contingent on matter, for life to get started. So if from the worldview of a non-theist, eternal or from absolute nothingness, an infinite structure of matter can't do anything. It needs an outside prime mover, therefore God.
Okay, so the outside prime mover, therefore God. Red, yellow, blue equals color of fire, therefore God. So this isn't making much sense. I don't understand. I'm trying to be nice. So logically, so when I think about God, right? Like I think about if we're going to talk about the Christian God, I'm going to think about like, what was this Christian God originally, right? Like, so this Christian God originally, especially if you take Genesis and the earlier stories at its word, was an actual being, created the soul universe, walked around, gave man advice, was pretty much there, hand-to-hand interactions, basically. And I've seen how, as we've learned more about the world and the universe, that version of God has changed. So logically, if I can see that version of God has changed, I have to see that there's inconsistencies in this God. That this God can change with the times instead of being infinite, instead of always being the same. Logically, when I can observe those things, to me, that tells me this God is false. So like I understood, like, when you approached me about a conversation about logic, that I was probably going to be dealing with the Darth Dawkins kind of wannabe, and I'm not trying to diss you, my dude, but this is kind of his script, just not as good.
But the prime mover argument also comports with Genesis. Genesis 1 verse 27, that we are made in God's image. So to test that, we just close our eyes and visualize anything. So God is the eternal, infinite consciousness. So when you close your eyes and visualize an image, that image in our mind has no boundaries to it. We can just keep pushing that image further and further away in our minds. So that would explain his infinite size.
All right. So when you talk to me about this red space in my mind that I can create, and it can be as infinite, right? That's literally the universe. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like when I look at the universe, to me, I'm seeing something that leads me away from any logical assumption that a God exists behind it, because it's so infinitely big. It's so big that we can't possibly imagine how big it is. I think a lot of people's conception of how big the universe is probably actually the size of our galaxy. I just don't think humans can possibly imagine how big the universe actually is. And it's getting bigger. We know this because of science, because of Hubble, right? So, I mean, not because of religion. Religion was telling us it was slowing down and we were the center of everything. Remember that? No, we're not. We're not. So to me, logically, if I'm going to talk about, is God necessary for logic, or is logic necessary for God? However you put it forth to me originally, is God necessary using logic? No. Like logically, if I'm using logic, to me, I just get farther and farther away from any God claim, much less a very specific God claim of Christianity, which in my opinion is just blatantly false.
You're just making claims. You're not elaborating.
No, I'm not. I didn't even make a claim. I just said that's how it is for me using my personal logic. I'm giving a personal experience, something Christians usually do when they're talking about their Christian God. I'm supposed to accept that, though. I'm supposed to accept that.
Well, then I could just turn this around again and just ask you, did the material for the universe have a beginning, or did it not have a beginning?
Again, and I would answer the same way. I wasn't there. I don't know. I've only been alive for 43 years.
So then I have to debate for you. I have to speak for you.
Probably. I'm just an honest interlocutor, dog. You don't know. You couldn't honestly answer that question.
I've already addressed all these.
You can presume that you wasn't there, my dude. Even science doesn't address that question. I know your God tries to address that question.
Absolute nothingness as a starting point is impossible, because if absolute nothingness created
infinite matter... Did I make a claim that there was absolute nothingness?
Okay, so now your alternative is that the material is eternal. You still need an outside
prime mover. Did I make a claim that the material is eternal?
Well, then you're falling back to absolute nothingness.
No, I'm falling back to my stubborn, persistent claim that I don't fucking know.
But they're the only two options.
Is soccer count here? Oh my God. I'm not making. So I told you that in my experience, by using my powers of deduction and logic, that if I take the universe into account, the things that you started with, right? The fact that there's stars out there, and there's these very complex galaxies, and then like we know like our little corner of the Milky Way, like we thought that like we was the Milky Way for like I was actually raised where I thought we was the Milky Way, just our 9 planets. No, we're on a very far end of a very long spiral of the Milky Way. We're one of, I mean, it's insane how big our galaxy is, right? So just that alone, I don't think we can truly imagine just how big it was. Like maybe if you were putting forth that there was like this God mind behind each individual galaxy, that would be a little easier for me to logically understand. But when you talk about the impossibly unimaginable size of the universe, and you want to put one mind behind all of that, to me, that is pure and simply illogical.
We can visualize a universe in our mind so small at the same time so big.
Maybe you can do that, sure. That doesn't have anything to do with the actual real universe that's out there, that's expanding and is beyond our comprehension on how big it is.
But when you talk about galaxies, you need to go back to square one.
Why?
You're jumping to square 7. because you need to go back to the eternal prime mover,
You seem
which
to need
could
to go
only be
back there.
accounted. You need a prime mover who is omnipotent, infinite in size, eternal, and non-contingent on matter, with a consciousness to create matter. You need a choice.
I thought you said I was
to
the one
create all
making
this matter.
claims. I mean, you've been like on this thing like, oh, you're just making claims. Who's the one making claims here?
Well, then respond directly to what I just told you.
I just said you're making a claim. You're making a claim that there must be
You're making a claim
that there must be
just
a
now.
prime mover to begin with, and that prime mover therefore is God. You're making that claim, so yeah, go ahead and prove it. Go get your Nobel Prize.
I'm telling you the attributes to the eternal necessary prime mover, and all those attributes has a consciousness for there to be any life to begin with, and for there to be universal consistency and life.
How do you know that?
Where if you go outside and look up, there are over trillions of stars, and your life, your vessel is life. So extrapolate that back to the very origin that the eternal prime mover also consists of life, therefore God.
So I look up in the night sky, I see trillions of stars. That means the eternal prime mover, therefore God. I think
that's
you're
just one.
I think you're missing a bit there. Again, this is just the Oprah Winfrey argument. Like, don't you see the wind rustling through the trees and feel the awe? I mean, no. So they're stars. Yes, they're stars. And in fact, for a long time, like I don't even think that God didn't explain what those stars were. Why didn't God explain it? Why didn't your Christian God explain it? Why did we think that we were the center of the universe? Now that we know so much more about it, how can you possibly fit a God within that? Again, like and not even so much the God. Or if you told me that Yahweh was the mind of our little corner of the galaxy, it would be more logical for me to believe. But you want to sit here and claim that Yahweh is responsible for this entire universe. To me, that's just cray-cray. So, I mean, give evidence to that. Give me your evidence. Give me your. Well, in fact, you don't even have to give it to me. Just start writing some papers, get the shit peer-reviewed. You can get your Nobel Prizes. You can prove what nobody's ever been able to prove, and that's the existence of God.
But atheists are below 7% worldwide.
So?
Like, it's even less than that, because agnostics are a part of that minority as well.
What does this have to do with anything?
So this is a well-established fact that
because there's a lot of theists, therefore God exists. That's not evidence of shit.
And not only that, you can't deny Romans chapter 1 verse 20. And I'll elaborate on this no, you can't. Since the creation of the world, God has made his eternal power and divine nature known to everybody. So those are without excuse.
Really? He ain't made it known to me, dog.
Yes, he has. If you've been experiencing deja vu, if you've been experiencing deja vu, or if you've been thinking about something and it happens simultaneously, that's God's eternal attribute communicating with you. So you are without excuse.
I am without excuse. There's no doubt. But it's not just me. I mean, it's everybody in the chat's like, these are the worst arguments. Like, I'm a little lost. I'm a little lost. All right. So 7% atheists. The world is theist. These are all things that we know. I don't think you even begin to understand the fallacious nature of your arguments, which is fine. That's all good. It's funny because I mean I came into this understanding your bias because you kind of gave yourself away because you know when I'm a very busy person. I didn't respond to you for a while. I mean, ask Nicholas about that in the side chat. I'm very notorious for that. And so your response to me after I didn't respond for a while was that God told you that I'm going to the lake of fire. Correct?
Yeah, God and I have a personal relationship. And so I'll give you a testimony.
And he told you that I'm going to the lake of fire.
Oh, I asked him a question in my mind.
How is that logical for you to believe that?
No, I'm giving you a personal. We're not debating. this is a personal experience. I can ask God a question in my mind, and He will nod my head on its own.
Really?
So,
Is
so
that
I could
like
ask,
or not like the Ouija board?
no, because I'm asking Him a question within myself. I'm not
Okay.
using any material. I'm asking Him in my mind. So I could ask God, is this person going to heaven? Is this person going to the new kingdom? And He will either nod my head or He would gently shake my head.
Dude, you should take that to like Broadway and make some money.
But look, that's my relationship with God. But
I
you
know,
need
but
to go
you
back
completely
to
dismissed
the.
my relationship with my reality, and said that my personal experience had no basis in this conversation.
But you need an eternal prime mover, not contingent on matter, with
So
a consciousness.
my
Therefore,
experience has
God.
no basis in this conversation because you need that prime mover, and without that prime mover, you're gonna go to hell.
But your experience consists of matter, so you need a
My experience,
outside
so
prime
does
mover.
yours. Your experience consists of matter. But I don't see you're making this claim. You keep making this claim over and over again that you have to have this prime mover. Now, this is a claim a lot of people have made, and if this is a claim that has been proven up to this point, well, then there'd be no discussion here. You can just give me that data. You can show me where that prime mover is and how this was proven. You could use physics, however you're gonna use it, and you present that data. But you just keep making the claim. And when I say fuck the claim, you're like, yep, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the first law of thermodynamics, matter can't create itself. So if you go back to the origin,
Matt Powell
you need an outside.
Go ahead and give me those equations to that first law of thermodynamics, please.
That energy / matter can't create more three-dimensional
But I'm asking for
structures
the
of matter.
equations. I'm asking for the mathematical equations that lead to the first law of thermodynamics.
No, you extrapolate that back to the origin.
Oh,
you need
you don't know much
outside
about
prime
the first law
mover.
of thermodynamics then.
I've been saying this over and over again. You need a prime mover not contingent on matter. So, an eternal prime mover not contingent on the laws of physics. And if you make the assertion of an inside prime mover for gravity, for example, which I don't believe, I take the position that the Earth is flat, by the way. If you make the assertion of gravity,
I'm not
that's an
surprised you're a flat earther, my dude. That's not surprising me at this moment.
But if you make that assertion of an inside prime mover, that inside prime mover can't do anything to that infinite structure of matter to get the Big Bang and to get more objects inside of itself. You need an outside prime mover, therefore God.
Therefore God. How do you logically get to the deduction that the Earth is flat?
No, we're not discussing flat Earth.
Oh, we're not.
I'll just throwing it out there.
That's not very logical. Well, this was fun, my dude.
Well, you could debunk gravity just by blowing up a balloon. But we're on the discussion of God.
By blowing up a balloon, you debunk gravity? How do you debunk gravity by blowing up a balloon?
Well, not only that, you can't see gravity. Gravity is merely
can't see wind either. We know wind is there.
Yeah, but that's energy. That's wind, oxygen. It's all energy. This made-up belief of gravity is completely imaginary. But look, I don't want to go down that discussion. We're just talking God in general.
Well, I know we're not going to get very far with this. I do appreciate you coming on and attempting. You might have a better time with a different type of atheist. I'm really not the scientific or the philosophical type of dude. I like to talk about the Bible, and because I'm going to just give you the same answers. If I wasn't there, I don't know. Yeah, I believe in evolution, but I wasn't there. I don't know. I believe in the Big Bang Theory. I wasn't there. I don't know. I grant the premise that a God could possibly exist. That therefore I do make the claim that I'm an agnostic atheist, although I don't believe in any God claim that I've ever come across in my entire existence of life. I have at points. I don't anymore. Not saying that there's some God out there that humanity hasn't imagined, or that there isn't some like some guiding natural force behind the course of the universe. But I don't think that you as a Christian would call that conception what I would say is a universal God or whatever it is, a universal law, a universal order. You wouldn't claim that to be God. You're talking about a very specific thing in your God claim. And when you make that very specific God claim, you need to come up with evidence to back it up. Because I'm not making any claims here. I'm simply saying, I don't know. You're making claims. You're just not giving any evidence.
The evidence is the energy and matter around us. So extrapolate that back.
Go write your papers, get your peer reviews, get those Nobel Prizes, and then come tell me how I was wrong. Prove that God, because a lot of people have tried.
It's all over Google.
Oh, so I can go look up I can go find the person that has proven God? Seriously, I can go do that? Give me names. Give me names, my dude. Give me names. I'll write them down. I'll go find them.
Well, you've debated a few of them.
Oh, I've debated. I didn't realize I debated such prestigious fellows.
You've spoken to Standing for Truth. You've spoken to Matt Powell. They're the only two debates I've seen you in.
And you think that they've proven the existence of God? All right, so you're going to put Matt Powell up on a pedestal when Matt Powell says atrocious things like, kill all gay people, dash disobedience children's heads against the stones. You're going to prop him up as some authority here?
Well, no, I'm just. Well,
you just did.
No, he has a
you just said Matt Powell has proven the existence of God, dude. Come the fuck on. What fucking reality are you living in, my dude? Give me some of those mushrooms. I really want some.
Just rewatch the video of him with you. Look, we can end this now.
Oh yeah. Yep. Have a good night, my dude. 7:42, guys. 8:15. After party. I'll see you there.